Welcome to my training room. I'm Rainer. This is just going to be a quick update of what I've been up to in the last week. I've gone to a couple of train shows, and I've also gotten some more stuff done on the layout here. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of what I've done on the layout, but I'll give you a bit of an overview of that once I cover what I did with what I managed to find at the train shows. So last weekend, so a week ago, I ended up going to a show in Kitchener, and it was a pretty good size show. Didn't really have anything specific in mind that I was looking for. I have been looking around for some 52.5 foot gondolas, and that I want to actually paint up for Algoma Central, but I managed to find 3 of them. They're Proto 2000s. There's a really good price on them. They're actually painted for letter to nickel plate road right now, but I'm going to redo those eventually. They're unassembled kits, so I've got 3 of those here. There's 2, and the 3rd one right here. So that was a good start. Found those fairly quickly after walking into the show. Wandered around a little more and ended up picking up a couple of 50-foot bulkhead flat cars, undecorated, Walters units. Again, got them at a very good price, so that was good. I was looking around for some good structure kits, and at shows I found that a lot of times I can end up finding these Walters kits that end up being fairly pricey otherwise and getting them at a good price. So once again, picked up this Allied Rail Rebuilders kit for 25 bucks. Thought that was a pretty good price, and that'll fit somewhere in my rail yard. I'm not quite sure where, but it seemed like a good kit. And then I picked up this little Pola Old Smithy for 7 bucks. It's a cool little barn-like shed structure. I have a few ideas of where I could put that, so that was a good price. Wandering around a little more, I also picked up this 53.5 foot flat car, and I wasn't really looking for a flat car for my regular fleet, but what I want to do with this one is actually mount my camera on it, or put a temporary mount for my camera that I use for my cab views, because I used another flat car of mine that I had before, and I just felt like I needed a little bit longer one so I could put more counterweight on the end of it for balancing out the camera. So that's going to become essentially my camera car. That's my plan anyway. And then as I was almost getting ready to leave the show, I ended up talking to one of the vendors who mentioned he had actually watched this YouTube channel, so I chatted with him for a while. I don't remember his name. I'm sorry, I'm not actually sure he gave me his name, but he had these 5 Walters, old Walters passenger car kits, and they're actually the metal and wood kits. So there was a set of 5 of them, all in, apparently the parts are all mixed up in the boxes, so he gave me a package deal on all 5 of them, and I wasn't actually looking for something like that, but it seemed like something that could be fun to build, a different challenge, and I've never built any of those old wood and metal kits before. Everything I've ever built has always been plastic or styrene car kits. So that's going to be a fun challenge to tackle and go through and figure out what parts are there and what parts aren't. So yeah, that'll be a fun challenge to take on somewhere down the road. What else? Oh, and as I was walking out the door, ended up picking up this. It's an 85-foot Bud observation car. Now it's painted for Delaware and Hudson, but Algoma Central had a car very similar to this called the Canyon View. Now it had slightly taller windows. It was a kind of a oddball. They had some of these models of these cars that had slightly taller windows at the one end, but from what I've seen, nobody makes a model of that version. So I'm thinking of repainting this and lettering it as a stand-in for the Canyon View on my layout. So that was basically what I found at the Kitchener show. Overall, it wasn't quite as large as the Barrie show I went to, but seemed to have a good selection of vendors. And I was hoping to find more structure kits at really good prices, but I'm happy with what I found. And then yesterday, I went to the show in Belleville. Again, a little bit smaller than the Kitchener show. Seemed like they had some really cool displays in the other room, some layouts and things like that. Unfortunately, I didn't get any pictures of the show. I went to the show with my wife. We were just walking around, and but what I did find was one of the vendors was selling, he had a stack of the Athearn Blue Box cars listed at 4 for $25. Well, that's an all right price. It's not fabulous, but it's an okay price. So what I did was I picked out 3 different tank cars. But the 4th item I found in the stack was, it was a blue box kit like that. But what I ended up getting was an SW 1500 switcher, actually a powered switcher. So 1 switcher and 3 tank cars for $25. I think that was a pretty good deal. Didn't get anything else at the show, but I was happy with that. And that's probably it for shows for a while for me, because I've looked at what other shows are coming up and they just don't work with my schedule, with my work schedule and everything else. To my layout, what have I been up to? So I showed you my trestle that I built, and it's not actually installed there currently. It's just sitting there. The tracks leading to both sides of it aren't in place yet. The other bridge is back there. And then for here, I've actually created a little bridge with the leftover bit of bridge decking from my trestle that it didn't fit into that gap. So I had a little bit left over. So I'm making a little bridge right here. I've been working on getting things ready so I can pour my water for the river. But the problem with the rivers is they'll flow somewhere. And if you're pouring river, even with the fake water, it's liquid when you pour it, and it's going to flow somewhere. And on a model railroad, if the river just ends and there's nothing to stop it, it runs on the floor. So I don't want to do that. So as I've gone along, I've just found that I keep on adding to what I need to do before I can pour my water. So I originally started with just a hill back there, but then I ended up having to do all of this landscaping. And then while I was working this, I thought, well, I might as well do this hill at the same time and work my way across. And plus, once I pour the water, I don't want to be having to reach across it too much. So I need to get the trees put in back there. At the same time, I also realized that if I put the trees in back there, I don't want to go all the way down with the trees because it's going to be hard to pour the water. So anyway, I have a plan for what I'm doing in that corner. But then as I worked along, I realized that I wanted to have a little bit of a pond lake scene here that the river runs into. So I realized that I actually have to finish this part as well, because it's either that or I have to dam the river somewhere, and I'm not going to be able to get continuous water all the way down. So what I'm doing right now, and that's why I decided to record this video right now, is I've got a bunch of caulking in around the corners here to make it watertight, to seal it up. And then I still need to put some more plaster in here and get that all colored in. So it's kind of like I keep working at it and doing more. Now, in terms of how I've built these hills, you probably saw that in the earlier video. What I've done in the back is I build a basic structure with the styrofoam underneath, and then I put some chicken wire over top of it, just to give me a bit of a curved shape, so that, you know, these hills are actually mostly hollow. It's not a solid foam hill. It's got some foam structure in it, but then it's that chicken wire on top, and then I use the plaster cloth on top of that. And then after the plaster cloth is on there, if anybody's ever worked with that plaster cloth, once you put it on, it's just full of little holes. And so what I do after that is I take some plaster, or in this case, I just used some sheetrock 20. I mix it into a fairly liquidy form, and then just brush it on with a brush and leave it to harden up overnight or or a couple of days if it's not drying really fast enough, if I get it on too heavy. And that just gives me a nice sealed shell. And then once that's ready, I just take some brown flat latex household paint. I just have some cheap paint that I bought at Home Depot. Picked out a color that kind of looks like dirt and paint it on. And what I found that I like to do is I paint it on, and while the paint's still wet, I sprinkle on some of that ground cover, kind of the brownish and greenish grass, the ground up foam stuff on top of there, so that it gives it a bit of texture right away. And I found that it doesn't actually need that much gluing afterwards because it soaks up some of the paint and just gets stuck in the wet paint. So that's what I end up doing, just to give myself a very quick covering, and that's all I've done with this. This hasn't had any glue sprayed on it or anything like that, but it's just giving me some ground cover. So that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. The next thing I need to do is get some plaster cloth put in here to bridge the gap between the road bed or the sub road bed beside, because there's exposed plywood, and so I've got to get that down to the foam and get that covered and painted. And then once it's all sealed and I know that my riverbed is sealed, I actually need to paint the bottom of the riverbed to be the color I want it to, and then do the pour of the Woodland Scenics water that I'm going to be using. That's the plan at this point. Up there through the tunnel openings, I have no rails, no track running through them yet, because like I said, this bridge, this trestle is not actually attached. This bridge isn't attached. The bridge at the back is not attached. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but I do have one tree in there. That tree is not even attached. It's just kind of poked into a hole just because I was checking sight lines and wanted to see how it was going to look. And anyway, that's kind of a quick update of what I've managed to do here. So next step, a little bit of plastering here, put some plaster across here. Once that sets, it'll be plaster cloth first and then put some plaster. Then I'm going to paint it, get the riverbed ready, and then hopefully do the water pour. So that's the kind of the plan of what I'm trying to accomplish here. Thanks for watching, and you know, if you haven't subscribed and you want to keep up with what I'm doing in here, click the subscribe button. See you next time.